From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Daniels Roofing, licensed, bonded, insured roofing contractor. 45 years of generational expertise, offering a variety of roofing systems in the North State. Composition shingles, metal, tile, fire-safe wood shingles, and spray foam roofing systems. An energy-saving cool roof, perfect for commercial flat roofs and mobile homes. With other companies, you may get a foreman or a salesman, but with Daniels Roofing, you get Daniel. Call today for your free estimate. Daniels Roofing, 3 generations working hard to protect your home and business.
Good morning, everyone. Well, as expected, very active night overnight, especially for the coast. Those showers and thunderstorms and heavy rainfall, gusty winds, they've made their way into the valley this morning as well. You can clearly see that band of moisture pushing on through. We've even seen some lightning strikes, gusty winds, heavy rainfall at times as well. This will continue to push to the east, and then behind it is cold and unstable air that's going to bring us more thunderstorms, which we'll get into that a little bit later. Some of the rainfall totals as of recording this morning, you can see not quite an inch out at the Redding Airport, but that will most likely exceed that here as we go through the morning hours. You can see a lot less out towards Chico. 2.35 Crescent City. Look at Redway down in southern Humboldt County around Garberville. 3.37 inches of rain. That's where we've seen the most amount of rain. Not very much out towards Modoc County, Lassen, or even eastern Plumas counties. But again, we're going to be tacking on more to all of those totals over the next 24, even 48 hours. Wind gusts, well, you can see very strong winds, especially for the coast last night and early this morning. Even some very strong winds out towards Siskiyou County as well. You see those brown colors and those white colors? I mean, those are in excess of 70 miles per hour or so. And you can see some gusty winds this morning, even for the valley as well, even upwards of 40 and most likely even close to 50 miles per hour. And then, of course, some gusty winds even in the eastern mountains. So certainly some very strong winds overnight. As a result, we have seen some power outages. Now, there were power outages in Delnor County, over 7,000 people without power. Since then has been restored. About 1,000 people, Siskiyou County, as of recording this morning. Not as many for Trinity or Lassen County, but over 4,000 out in Humboldt County. And we may see more power outages through the morning hours as we still expect to see some very strong winds through the morning hours. Cool and unstable behind this cold front. Thunderstorms capable of producing heavy rainfall, gusty winds, hail, and of course lightning. There still is going to be concerns about flooding, mudslides, and debris flows, especially west of the valley. Now, also keep in mind that around the Redding area, we could look at the potential for what we call they're convective, but also looking at that convergence line around the Redding area as well. More rain Thursday, but it will be quieter as we go into Friday and through the weekend. All right, now let's get to your Krueger's Quickcast. For those of you that want a quick look at your forecast for today, be prepared for some wet weather, but not everyone's going to see as much rain as others, and you'll see that here in just a second. The valley this morning, showers, possible thunderstorms. There you can see some of the thunderstorms for Trinity County, the North Coast, rain for Siskiyou, Modoc County, and the eastern mountains. So you can see that cold front. That's what's pushing on through here, and that's what's going to give us the gusty winds as well, continuing into the morning hours here. Now behind that, you see that brown dashed line, that's a trough. That is also going to aid in the instability that we will see throughout the afternoon with that cold and unstable air moving in. Now, for Krueger's Quickcast, I'm going to show you the HRRR forecast model. This one is more aggressive, and I actually agree with it a little bit more, especially for the coast, as you go through the afternoon. So let's take you through the morning hours here, and you can see that is going to push off to the east. Now, 8 o'clock this morning, showers. Not a lot of thunderstorm activity in the valley per se, but there may be a few isolated thunderstorms there. Now you can see thunderstorms in the higher elevation. Still heavy rainfall east of the valley. Snow levels mainly above 6,000 feet. Now you'll see that the widespread heavier rainfall begins to taper off as we go through the morning hours off to the east. And then we're looking at scattered showers and thunderstorms mainly in the mountains, even at 10 o'clock this morning. And of course, even for parts of the coast. But look at those trail of thunderstorms off the coast there. That is going to be approaching and will, of course, create some problems later in the afternoon for the coast. There's that convergence line around Redding and then extending northeastward. Very heavy rainfall associated with that. And if that sticks around for several hours, you're talking downpours for several hours. Flash flooding is going to be a bit of a concern there. But look at Chico, look at Willows, look at Red Bluff, maybe a stray shower, maybe even an isolated thunderstorm midday, and thunderstorms off to the east. Then we have that line. You see that line still kind of sticking around the Redding area northeast up on Highway 299 to Bernie and even into Modoc County. But look at Del Norte, western Siskiyou County, looking at some pretty strong thunderstorms there. And by the way, the potential maybe for some water spouts over the ocean. And then you can see as we go into the afternoon, then it works its way back into Humboldt County as well. And I think as we go into this evening, there could be another line of possible thunderstorms developing around the Redding area, and then maybe even southward eventually overnight, working its way into Tehama, Glenn, and Butte counties as well. So you get the idea. It's not going to be the widespread rainfall that we're seeing this morning, but it will be more in the way of scattered showers and thunderstorms, and many of those thunderstorms capable of producing heavy rainfall and gusty winds. There you can see as we take you through the afternoon, the winds will actually slowly subside, but still gusty through the day, but they should die down significantly by the time we go into tonight and tomorrow. All right, so for today, you've got thunderstorms in the forecast. The farther north you go, I think the better the chances in the valley. Everyone in the mountains has those thunderstorm chances, as well as the north coast. Now, as we go into tonight and taking a look at the 7-day forecast, you can see that there's going to be more rain coming in for your Thursday. And then by Friday, we're finally drying things out, and we should be looking at dry conditions at least through early next week. Some of the long-range forecast models indicate that maybe by next Wednesday, Thursday, more rain. But we'll deal with that later, right? Let's take a look at the 7-day forecast for Siskiyou, Modoc County, the Eastern Mountains, dry by Friday. And then I do expect continued dry and warmer conditions over the weekend. All right, that is a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. Now let's go into our deeper dive forecast, sponsored by Shasta Hearing Aids.
Frank, come help with the dishes.
What?
The dishes!
I heard it the first time. I just got back from Shasta Hearing Aids, but she doesn't know it yet. What?
Forget it.
All right, so there you can see that heavy band of rain. This is the main band of moisture that has been pushing through last night, really impacted the north coast early in the morning, pushing eastward. There's some thunderstorms and some lightning strikes that we did see early this morning as well. Heavy rainfall, especially really kind of focused in on the north end of the valley where we're seeing some of the heavy rainfall, but even that band of heavy rainfall out towards Chico this morning, that's all pushing eastward. Now again, behind it, we're seeing some cold and unstable air. This is the main cold front that's pushing through right here, and there's going to be some thunderstorms. And behind that, there's going to be more activity coming on in. So again, there's that cold front that'll be pushing eastward. Now, as I mentioned, cold and unstable air is indicated by the speckled clouds. This is what we call a trough. This is also going to aid in that instability that we will see throughout the afternoon, and also aid in some of those gusty winds that we will see. Now, we've seen a lot of rainfall, especially to the north and west of the valley over the last 24, 48 hours. We already have a fairly saturated ground, and any rain we see on top of that could lead to the potential for some flooding out there, low-lying areas, creeks and streams, maybe some mudslides and debris flows. Now, I do want to mention that this particular area here is also going to be an area of concern should we see that convergence line develop here later on today, especially as we go into the afternoon hours. Now, tomorrow, with more rain in the forecast, that could lead to more problems, especially off towards the west. Now, there is still a flood watch with heavy rain, which could lead to flooding, mudslides, and debris flows. And you can see the darker areas of green. These boxes of lighter green, those are the flood advisories that we do have through the morning hours as well. So again, still a bit of a concern. Now we look at the severe weather outlook as put out by the Storm Prediction Center. Typically the lighter shades of green, that is just the potential for thunderstorms and working their way in. The darker green, which we don't see as often. We don't typically see the darker green, yellows, or oranges, but every once in a while it can happen. Because sometimes we can get just enough of that instability where we could see the potential for severe thunderstorms developing, which would mean large hail, winds in excess of close to 60 miles per hour, right? So very strong winds too. And we can't forget about the potential for water spouts up and down the coast here, which is something we'll have to watch here very closely, and that off chance making its way into landfall. Now, one thing to remember, when a water spout goes onto land, then it turns into a tornado. One thing I want you to remember though, A lot of times these waterspouts, should they make their way onto land, number one, they're usually very weak and they don't last for very long. So they shouldn't be a huge concern, but it is something I'll be watching here as we go through the afternoon hours. All right, so we're now looking at Futurecast. Not as aggressive with the thunderstorms you'll notice here for the coast, but I do think we'll see thunderstorms throughout the day for the north coast. Now this morning, that heavier rainfall pushing to the east. 8 a.m., we're still seeing that heavier band of rain over the eastern mountains and snow above 6,000 feet. In the meantime, we're seeing scattered showers and thunderstorms, and even a few scattered showers, but really not a lot of thunderstorm activity this morning for the valley. Now, with those strong winds, here's your conversion sign developing. I've mentioned this before. When you see those really strong winds coming up the valley, it hits those mountains and it forces that air up. Instability, unstable air helps produce those showers and thunderstorms. Sometimes these lines stick around in one spot for several hours with heavy downpours, and that can lead to the potential for some flash flooding. Now you can see that line extends all the way up into Modoc County. We'll see if that actually develops that extensively, but you can see here, you see that line? It kind of sticks around through a good portion of the day. Now, a lot of times, too, it can kind of fluctuate north and south, so that's something that is worth watching here as we go through the afternoon as well. But we've got to really watch that area around Redding area, northeastward into northeastern Shasta County, and even sometimes into Modoc County. But overall, not as much activity for the valley, but I do want to mention we still have that chance for some stray showers and thunderstorms pretty much anywhere in the valley. And I do think this will be a little bit more extensive here for the north coast as well, going into the afternoon and even the evening and overnight hours. But by Thursday morning, look at this. We're seeing a bit of a break, right? But there's the next batch of moisture coming on in. Now, this is going to bring more rain for the north coast through the morning hours and to the north and west of the valley. Now, latest forecast models want to really focus most of the energy to the north here. So the chances as you head to the south, you can see just not as strong. But I do think we could still see some chances for showers later in the day as you head down to the south. But I think it'll be mainly focused for the north end of the valley and north of that, working its way into the mountains. And then overnight, you can kind of see it spreads to the south and east. So yes, the evening hours, maybe some better chances for showers for Chico for your Thursday. Then Friday morning, look at this. We're drying things out and we're clearing things out for Friday afternoon, and that's going to pretty much extend on into your weekend as well. There's a look at Saturday throughout the day. Look at that, just a couple of passing high clouds. We're not looking at any more rainfall at that point. Speaking of rain, well, this is just kind of an overall estimate that we're going to expect on top of what we've already seen. We could see another 2.5 inches or so in Crescent City, over an inch for Eureka, and Garberville and southern Humboldt County. I think we might even see a bit more than that. Maybe about a half an inch, a bit of shadowing as we do go towards the south end of the valley. But I do think Redding could see a lot more than that, depending if that convergence line sets up and where that sets up. But you can kind of see where that convergence line is trying to develop with some of the heavier rainfall. But we may want to bring that heavier rainfall maybe down a little bit more to the south and east. In the meantime, we're also seeing some heavier rain developing in the foothills and the mountains just east of the valley, and typically don't see as much rainfall off to the east. So, I mean, still some good rainfall heading our way, but it's going to be kind of more isolated, right? We're not looking at widespread rainfall across the region, just those scattered showers and thunderstorms. So it depends on where you are, depends on just how much rain you will end up seeing. And by the way, snow level is still fairly high, but we're now beginning to see, looks like some of those higher mountain passes in the eastern mountains, say above 6,000 feet, may run into some problems with snow on the mountain highways. There you can see on Cedar Pass, for example. Still looks like we're okay on Scott Mountain Pass, but just be on the lookout for that here as we take you over the next 24 hours or so with that snow. But again, it's still fairly high. Winds are going to be very gusty throughout the day today, and really looking at those gusts upwards of 50, even 60 miles per hour. So the timeline of all that, as I mentioned, I still think it's going to be pretty gusty. Not as strong as we saw last night and early this morning, but they will show signs of subsiding as we go through the afternoon and even into the overnight hours. Now, with that next push of rain coming in on Thursday, that's still going to bring some gusty winds, especially off to the north and west of the valley. But then you can see by Friday, yeah, much calmer winds are going to be in the forecast at that point. Temperature-wise, still pretty cool over the next few days, but we are rebounding quite nicely in the mid-70s for the weekend into early next week, and then it looks like we're going to be back down into the 60s by the time we get into Thursday and Friday. All right, so and by the way, towards the middle and latter part of next week, maybe another shot at some rain. But let's get through today and tomorrow before we really start kind of getting into that. There's a look at your lake levels. We actually did see an increase out towards Trinity Lake, but about over a foot drop here out towards Lake Oroville, and not much of a drop here for Lake Shasta, still over 100% of that historical average. There is a coastal flood advisory. This is not due to the rain, but it's due to the high astronomical tides and the high surf. 9 a.m. today through noon, and then a coastal flood watch for tomorrow morning through the afternoon. Some of the low-lying areas along the coast, a lot of the streets, we may see some closures because there could be some flooding on some of those streets that we typically see. I mean, you know where those are if you live in the area. Take a look at those wave heights as we take you through the next 24 to even 48 hours. They're still fairly high, but when we look at our marine forecast, there actually is a storm warning this morning. We'll see if that gets extended into the afternoon. But there you can see those south winds at about 20 to 25 knots. All right, here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. Taking a look at Trinity County for your Wednesday, you've got those temperatures mid to upper 50s, thunderstorms today, showers tomorrow, dry. Now, I think across the board, everyone will be dry by Friday through the weekend, and those warmer temperatures working its way in as well. 57 for Orleans, 61 degrees for Gas Key, Willow Creek about 63. Again, that time of the year, we're not seeing much of a temperature spread between the inland areas and the coast. Your Dignity Health Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, mainly in the 40s, especially in some of those higher plains there. You can see about 48 and 49 degrees for Weed, 47 for Tennant, but Fort Jones about 52 degrees in Scott Valley. Your Modoc County neighborhood forecast, low to mid 50s, 50 for Tule Lake, 54 out in El Turris, 54 degrees for Fort Bidwell and California Pines, also 54 degrees. Eastern Mountains about 56 in Doyle, 51 degrees for Chester, Shingletown about 51, and Viola a bit cooler, up higher in elevation at about 47. Take you down into the valley to the south, sponsored by Dignity Health. There you can see, of course, temperatures in the low 60s. Chico. I think your showers tomorrow, you're going to be dry for a good portion of the day tomorrow, but by tomorrow, late afternoon, evening, maybe some showers kicking in. And then Friday through the weekend, you're dry and warming up. And for your Veterans Day, about 74 degrees. All right, let's take you valley up to the north. You can see 61 degrees for Redding as well as Palo Cedro, 60 out in Red Bluff. And then taking a look at your 7-day forecast for Redding. There it is. Those temperatures are going to be in the 70s by the time you get in the weekend, and we're keeping those mid-70s for Monday and Tuesday of next week. All right, that's your morning update. I'll be back again at noon with the latest Check Your Forecast. Have a great morning.